February 21st, 2024, 11:47 p.m., Houston, Texas. A woman scrolling LinkedIn in bed. Mariana Santos couldn't sleep. Her $2.1 million home, paid off, achieved through decades of work, echoed with silence. Her children were scattered across the country. Her ex-husband had cheated. Her therapist called it existential emptiness. She had built everything, and yet she had no one to share it with. Then, a notification, Sheikh Usman Salman viewed her profile. His LinkedIn showed 47,000 followers, luxury developments across Dubai, intelligence, culture, someone like her. His first message was personal, specific. He saw her. Within months, Mariana made a choice that would cost her everything. She chose love over family, trust over evidence, a digital ghost over her own survival. But the man she fell in love with was never real, and by the time she discovered it, the doors were already locked. Welcome back, family. And if you're new here, welcome to one of the most authentic true crime communities on YouTube. We don't just tell stories, we honor the victims, demand justice, and expose the truth that others won't. Hit subscribe and tap that bell. We upload daily, and trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming. Now, let's get into it. Mariana had built her entire identity around being needed. The provider, the strong one, the woman who solved problems. From the moment she was born to parents who cleaned houses for a living but taught her that education was everything, she understood one thing: value yourself through what you build, through what you achieve, through what you provide. By 25, she had started her first real estate venture. By 35, she was one of Houston's top agents. By 45, she owned her own firm. By 58, she was featured in Texas Monthly as one of Houston's top entrepreneurs. $450,000 annual income, multiple investment properties, respect in her community, everything she'd dreamed about, everything except the one thing that mattered. Her marriage had been a lie, though it took her 24 years to fully accept it. Michael Santos, successful consultant, charming, ambitious, had seen her as a resource. By 2008, he was having affairs. He was leaving lipstick on his collar and coming home late with excuses about client meetings. He was using her paycheck, her status, her connections, while quietly undermining everything she was. By 2015, she finally made the choice to leave him. It cost her emotionally. It shattered the story she'd told herself about partnership and loyalty. But it freed her. And for the first time in decades, her ambition became entirely her own. Not something she was doing to impress a husband. Not something she was building to prove her worth to someone who didn't respect her. Just hers. She became even more successful after the divorce. Not because she was trying to prove something, but because finally she was building for herself. Yet, here she was, 58 years old, more successful than most women her age could ever dream of being, and more alone than she'd ever felt in her life. The Heights home had once been full, children running through rooms, family dinners that stretched for hours. Michael's voice, when it wasn't a lie, mixed with laughter from the kids. The house had been alive then. Now it was a monument to her own achievement, a beautiful, expensive, utterly silent tomb. Her therapist called it existential emptiness. Mariana had built her entire world around being indispensable, and now nobody needed her. She went to charity galas alone and watched other women her age arrive with husbands. She went to the gym and heard women making plans for Saturday nights, plans made 3 months in advance with husbands and grandchildren. She had yoga on Thursday mornings, a monthly book club where she said very little because nobody asked her anything personal. Last week, her therapist asked her, "Mariana, what brings you joy?" She couldn't answer, and that silence said everything. ID Night, sitting on her Italian leather sofa in the dark, furniture so expensive it had a price tag she could recite but couldn't enjoy, she'd ask herself the same question over and over. What's the point of all this if there's no one to share it with? You can't share a $2.1 million home with empty rooms. You can't celebrate professional success with nobody to celebrate it. You can't feel the warmth of achievement when you're sitting alone in the dark. Success had become its own prison. So, on February 21st at 11:47 p.m., Mariana was doing what she'd started doing every night. Scrolling, checking real estate markets, scanning industry news, anything to keep her mind busy enough that she wouldn't have to think about how quiet the house was. Anything to avoid staring at the ceiling and asking herself, is this all there is? Then the notification came. Sheikh Usman Salman viewed your profile. She almost scrolled past it. Almost, but something made her click. Maybe it was the name. Maybe it was the timing. Maybe, deep down, her exhausted heart was just looking for a reason to believe that something could change. His profile took her breath away. 47,000 followers. A recent post about sustainable luxury development, intelligent, well-written, sophisticated. The kind of thinking that mirrored her own. Photos showed him at charity events in expensive suits, standing next to influential people. Photos showed developments in Dubai and Abu Dhabi that took her architect's eye and made her nod in appreciation. There was a photo of him with his late mother, marked 2022, with a caption about honoring family legacy, about the importance of tradition and love. His bio was like looking in a mirror. Educated at Oxford, built luxury developments across the Middle East, family-oriented, cultured. Mariana thought, this is someone like me, not some desperate widower looking for a nurse, not some young man looking for arm candy, someone who understands ambition, someone who's built something real, someone who's got his own empire and doesn't need her to fix him. Then his message arrived. Ms. Santos, I noticed your portfolio on the Houston market. Your approach to sustainable luxury development aligns with my vision in Dubai. Would love to discuss market strategy. Best, U.S. She read it 3 times. Each time she felt something she hadn't felt in years. Not just hope, but seen. Someone was paying attention to her, not what she could provide, but to her mind, to her work, to her. She sat there in the dark, holding her phone, staring at those words, feeling that small spark of something that felt like life returning to her body. She replied. That was the moment everything changed. That was the moment a successful, intelligent, brilliant woman made a choice. The moment she decided to let hope override caution. The moment she chose to believe that maybe, just maybe, she didn't have to be alone anymore. She had no idea what was waiting for her on the other side of that decision. None at all. Before we go any deeper into this case, drop a comment and let me know where you're watching from. I love connecting with you, and please hit that like button and subscribe. It's the simplest way to support the channel and keep these stories coming. What her children didn't know would have broken their hearts. But Mariana was very good at keeping secrets. When Sophia called from D.C., which wasn't often, Mariana would answer and force brightness into her voice. Hey, honey, how's the law practice? I just closed a big development deal. You'd love the sustainability angle. She talked fast, filled the silence with her accomplishments, asked about work, congratulated her daughter on her success. What she never said. I've been eating dinner alone for 3 weeks. I had a full conversation with my orchid this morning about whether it was time to water it again. Last night, I cried so hard I couldn't breathe. Michael Jr. would text from overseas. She'd respond with pride about his military service, ask about his team, send encouragement. She never mentioned, I sat in your childhood bedroom yesterday and just sat there. I don't even remember what I was looking for. Daniel called from L.A. when his auditions went well. She celebrated him, asked about the industry, offered advice from her business background. She kept hidden, the way silence in this house feels like a physical thing, the way I've started talking to myself just to hear a human voice. She was supposed to be the strong one, the mother who had it all together, the woman who didn't need anything from anyone. That was the identity she'd built over decades. That was the woman in Texas Monthly. That was the woman who divorced a cheating husband and built an empire anyway. That identity had become her prison, because there's a difference between being strong and being alone. And Mariana had confused the two for so long that she didn't know how to be anything else. Her therapist had asked her once, "What would change if you weren't successful?" Mariana had sat with that question for a long time, really sat with it, and the answer terrified her. Nothing, absolutely nothing would change. Nobody was waiting for her to come home. Nobody needed her advice. Nobody would miss her. Success had been her identity for so long that she'd never developed anything else. Remove the achievement, and who was she? Just a woman. Alone. Irrelevant. Success had freed her from poverty. Her parents would have been proud of that. But it couldn't free her from something worse. It couldn't free her from the understanding that she'd built everything for nobody, that all the million-dollar deals and accolades and features in magazines meant nothing when there was nobody to share them with, that she'd won a game nobody else was playing. Mariana had learned a hard truth in her 58 years. Success and significance are not the same thing. She was significant professionally, respected, sought after. But significance wasn't the same as being needed, and nobody needed her anymore. So 3 months before that night on February 21st, Mariana had started spending more time on LinkedIn. Not for business exposure. She didn't need it. Her firm was thriving. Clients called her. She was established. But LinkedIn felt different. LinkedIn felt safe. It was intellectual, professional, a place where her mind mattered, where her expertise was respected, where people engaged with her ideas, not her loneliness, where she could post about sustainable development and market trends and get responses from people around the world who valued what she thought. She spent hours there late at night, scrolling, engaging, writing thoughtful comments, posting about her philosophy of business, looking at other people's success and nodding in recognition because she understood that world. That world made sense. What Mariana didn't realize was that she was broadcasting something much louder than her business philosophy. She was broadcasting her isolation, her vulnerability, her hunger to be seen. A woman spending time on professional networking sites at midnight, engaging deeply with business philosophy and architecture and development. A woman interested in luxury and design and meaning, successful, accomplished, independent, and desperately, desperately alone. A woman exactly like that is a perfect target. And someone, somewhere, knew exactly how to read what she was putting out into the world. While Mariana was falling asleep in her empty Houston mansion, Tyler James Wilson was in a modest apartment in Perth, Australia, researching her. Tyler James Wilson, born 1988. 35 years old, a man with a particular skill set and no conscience to hold him back from using it. His childhood had taught him early what he needed to know. Love could be a weapon. Trust could be currency. And vulnerability was a liability you could exploit. His mother had loved him fiercely. But his mother's boyfriend, his stepfather Robert, had taught him that love came with violence, that safety was an illusion, that the strongest person in the room was the one willing to hurt someone else. At 15, Robert had thrown his sister Rachel across a room during a drunk rage. She broke her arm. That was the night his mother finally left. That was also the night Tyler learned something. His mother was strong enough to survive. But she was also foolish enough to believe in things like love and loyalty and second chances. By 20, Tyler had decided he'd never be that foolish, and he'd never be powerless again. His first victim was a woman named Diane, 42, divorced, lonely, wealthy from a settlement. He was charming. He was broken in a way that made her want to fix him. They dated for 3 months. He told her his mother was sick and needed $15,000 for emergency treatment. She gave it to him without hesitation. When she asked for repayment, he simply disappeared, changed his number, blocked her on everything. And for the first time in his life, Tyler James Wilson felt powerful. Over the next 15 years, he perfected the art of exploitation. Twice arrested, twice released. Each time he came back to it because it was the only thing that made him feel alive. The power of manipulating someone, the thrill of taking everything from them, the satisfaction of their devastation. In prison, he'd met cybercriminals who'd taught him about deepfakes, about cryptocurrency, about hiding money across borders. But more importantly, they'd taught him something that changed everything. You don't have to meet them in person. The internet is the perfect hunting ground. By 2024, Tyler had evolved beyond simple con artist. He'd invested $8,000 in deepfake technology. He'd stolen photos of a real Australian businessman, a successful, handsome man with an actual life. He'd created video calls with himself that looked exactly like this man. The deepfakes were flawless. Victims had video calls with him. They saw his face. They heard his voice. They never suspected they were talking to someone else entirely. He was no longer just a smooth talker. He was a digital ghost, invisible, untraceable, perfect. When Tyler saw Mariana's LinkedIn profile on February 21, 2024, he recognized something immediately. Not a person, a pattern, successful, wealthy, alone, vulnerable to believing that someone finally sees her, that someone finally understands her mind, that someone finally values her for who she is instead of what she provides. He didn't think of her as Mariana Santos. He thought of her as prey. He created the Sheikh Usman Salman profile. He researched her thoroughly. He learned her business philosophy, her interests, her vulnerabilities. The way she talked about sustainable development, the way she believed that business could be meaningful, the way she valued intelligence and culture and accomplishment. He learned exactly what she needed to hear. Then he sent her a message. Ms. Santos, I noticed your portfolio on the Houston market. Your approach to sustainable luxury development aligns with my vision in Dubai. And Tyler waited for her to take the bait. He knew she would. He'd read her isolation like a book. He could see through her screen exactly how hungry she was to be seen, how desperate she was to believe that someone finally understood her, and he was going to use every bit of that hunger against her. If you believe more people need to hear this story, hit that like button right now. Your engagement pushes this video out to others who need to see the warning signs. One click can literally save someone's life. She hit send at 1:47 a.m. and felt hope. Those 4 words. Thank you for reaching out. Always interested in discussing market trends. Happy to connect. Mariana took every ounce of courage she had. She'd almost deleted them 3 times. Had almost talked herself out of responding at all. What if he was just being polite? What if she was reading too much into it? What if she was setting herself up for disappointment? But she sent it anyway. And then she waited. Within 48 hours, he replied, Would love to discuss this further. Let's do a video call tomorrow, 6 p.m. Houston time. Mariana stared at those words. A video call with him, where he could see her face, where she would see his. She was nervous in a way she hadn't been in decades. She hadn't had a professional video call with an attractive man in years. She'd almost forgotten what that felt like, that flutter in your chest, that moment of checking your appearance in the mirror. That question, do I look okay? Do I sound intelligent? Will he think I'm boring? She was 58 years old. She'd built an empire. She'd survived a divorce. She'd fought her way through every obstacle life threw at her. And she was nervous about a video call like some girl before her first date. When 6 p.m. came, she logged in, and there he was, Sheikh Usman Salman, exactly as his photos showed. Professional suit, warm smile, intelligent eyes that seemed to look right into her. The kind of eyes that said, "I'm listening. I care what you think." "Mariana," he said, and her name had never sounded that way before. Like it mattered. Like she mattered. He asked her about her real estate philosophy, and she talked. For 45 minutes, she talked about sustainable development, community impact, long-term vision. She talked about why business should have meaning, why profit should serve something bigger than itself. And he listened, not the way Michael used to listen, checking his phone, waiting for his turn to talk about himself. Not the way her children listened, proud of her, but not really engaged. Tyler listened the way she'd dreamed someone would listen. He asked thoughtful follow-up questions. He referenced specific details from her past projects that she'd mentioned on her website. He knew her work. He understood what she was trying to build. When the call ended, too soon, always too soon, he said, "This was wonderful, Mariana. Can we do this again next week?" She said yes immediately, and that's when the trap began to close. For 6 weeks, they had weekly video calls, always professional on the surface, always warm, always leaving her wanting more. But gradually, something shifted. The calls became less about markets and more about connection, less about business and more about him, about who he was when the professional mask came off. Tyler began sharing carefully crafted vulnerabilities. He talked about his struggles building developments in Dubai, the politics, the complications, the loneliness of being at the top in an industry that didn't forgive mistakes. He talked about his competitive family pressures, the expectation that he'd always be the strongest, the most successful. He told her about his ex-wife, how she'd left him because she felt intimidated by his ambition, how she'd wanted him to be smaller so she could feel bigger, how it had broken something in him. And he told her about his mother, how she had diabetes, how he worried about her constantly, how family was everything to him, and it terrified him that he might lose her. Mariana listened to every word, and she recognized herself in his stories. The loneliness, the way ambition could isolate you, the way people wanted you to be less so they could feel more secure. He admired her independence. "You don't need a man, Mariana. That's what I find attractive about you. You're complete in yourself. You've built something real." It was the perfect thing to say. It validated her entire identity. It said, "Your strength isn't threatening to me. I love it about you." He told her, "I've never met a woman who understands both worlds, the business side and the human side. Until you get it. You understand that success without meaning is empty, that power without purpose is just noise." Mariana had never felt so understood. And then the gifts started arriving. Week 4, a package at her office. Her assistant brought it to her with a knowing smile. Mariana opened it with shaking hands. A Rolex Submariner, $12,000, elegant, timeless, perfect. The note said, "For the woman who's always on time for herself." "You..." Mariana's assistant looked at her with raised eyebrows. Mariana's face flushed. She felt like a schoolgirl, like she was doing something scandalous just by receiving this gift. Her therapist would later ask, "Didn't that concern you? The expensive gift from a man you barely knew?" Mariana's honest answer, "It made me feel seen. For the first time in years, someone was paying attention to me. Not what I could provide, not my business or my connections or my success. Just me, just Mariana. He was thinking of me when I wasn't even in the room." Week 5. Another package, a first edition architecture book signed by a famous designer. Something she'd mentioned once, in passing, that she'd always wanted. The note, Thought of you when I saw this." Each gift was perfectly calculated, not ostentatious, not trying too hard, just showing. He listened. He remembered what she said. The book was about her industry because he cared about her world. He had resources. He could afford these things. He was successful like her. He was thinking of her. Between video calls, at odd hours, across the world. He understood her deepest desire, to be seen, not used, not taken from, just seen. Around week 7, something shifted. Tyler began revealing deeper vulnerabilities, not the polished stories about business struggles, the real stuff. He talked about pressure from his family, about feeling like he'd never be enough, about the loneliness of standing at the top with no one to share it with. And Mariana found herself opening up, not the way she opened up to her therapist, clinical, managed, but real, vulnerable. She told him about her divorce, about how Michael had seen her as a resource, not a person, about her children who were too busy for her, about the emptiness of her house. For the first time, she wasn't performing. She wasn't the successful businesswoman in the magazine. She was just a woman who was lonely. And he listened. Every detail mattered to him. He remembered that she liked her coffee with 2 sugars. He remembered her favorite color was blue. She'd mentioned it in passing when discussing a painting in her office. He remembered her daughter Sophia's name, her son Michael Jr.'s military rank, Daniel's ambitions in entertainment. He remembered her late father's profession, the way her voice changed when she talked about him. Around week 12, during one of their video calls, he said it. "Mariana, I'm falling in love with you." She didn't respond immediately. Couldn't respond. The words hung there between them on the screen, real and terrifying and beautiful all at once. But when she hung up that night, she was smiling. She went to sleep smiling, and for the first time in years she fell asleep thinking, maybe I'm not meant to be alone. Maybe this is my second chance. She had no idea what was coming. Weeks 14 through 16, Tyler made his move. He began planting seeds, subtle, gentle, the way you'd plant something you wanted to grow without the person knowing they were being cultivated. "I'm sure they love you," he said when she mentioned her children. "But do they really understand you? Do they get what drives you? What makes you who you are?" "Families can be possessive about successful people," he said. "They want you to be smaller so they feel secure. Have you noticed that?" "Your children are building their own lives," he said gently. "They have their own priorities now. Maybe it's time you built yours, with someone who actually chooses you, who actually puts you first." He wasn't crude about it. He wasn't telling her to cut off her family. He was just positioning himself as the one person who truly understood her, the one person who chose her, the one person who didn't need her to be less, to feel more secure. Mariana didn't realize she was being isolated, emotionally separated from the only people who might have saved her. She just felt like, for the first time in her life, someone was choosing her, really choosing her, and she was willing to do anything to make sure she didn't lose that feeling. If you're feeling this story so far, go ahead and hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. It means everything to this community and helps these cases reach the people who need to hear them most. You're part of something bigger here. He sent the message on week 22, and it started like everything else, with need. "Mariana, I need your business acumen on something. Can we video call tomorrow?" When the call came, he looked different, concerned. His usual calm confidence was cracked. For the first time, he wasn't the successful developer. He was vulnerable. He was asking for help. "My family's trust requires verification from international investors before releasing development capital," he said. "The amount is substantial, and the banks won't release it without proof of international partnership. I need someone credible, someone with a real business background, someone I trust. Someone like her." "How much are we talking about?" she asked. $25,000 to start. your name on the documents as a verified investor. This protects both of us legally. It shows the trust that there's legitimate international involvement. Mariana's business mind kicked in. It made sense. International investments did require this kind of verification. She'd seen it in her real estate dealings. It wasn't unreasonable. It was actually standard practice. She asked questions. He answered them all confidently. He sent her the documents. They looked legitimate. Official letterheads, bank seals, his signature. She transferred $25,000. Her rationalization was simple. This is an investment in our future. Professional partnerships require financial commitment. It felt like partnership. It felt like they were building something together. 3 weeks later, week 26, he called, and his voice was breaking. Mariana, my mother's in the hospital. She needs surgery, experimental treatment in Switzerland, the kind insurance won't cover, the kind that costs a fortune. She could hear the strain in his voice, the real fear of losing his mother. My family won't help. They want me to abandon the business and focus on family duties. But I can't do that. I need to show them I'm building something real. I need to show them I'm not a failure. And I can't do that while I'm sitting in a hospital watching my mother suffer. His voice cracked. He sounded genuinely devastated. How much? She asked. $40,000. I'll repay you triple when the project closes, I promise. She transferred $40,000 without hesitation. Her rationalization. He's been there for me emotionally. This is how I can be there for him. This is what love means. Being there when someone needs you most. Week 30 came and his tone shifted to urgency. There's a cash flow problem with the marina development. Banks won't lend until international verification is complete. Without this infusion, everything collapses. Mariana, this is the moment. This is us building our future. If you don't send this money, the entire project falls apart. $60,000. Her rationalization, if the project fails, he loses everything. This is about protecting our shared dream. This is about proving we're in this together. Week 35. The requests kept coming. Faster now. More urgent. My visa renewal is being delayed. I can't work until it's processed. The legal fees are $45,000. Mariana, I feel like I'm losing control of everything. You're the only one who can help me. $45,000. Her rationalization. Without legal help, he'll be stuck. This is temporary. Once the visa is renewed, he can work and repay me. Week 40. The pattern had become so normal that she barely hesitated. My family's jewelry business is expanding. It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. If you invest $50,000, I'll make sure you're set up for life. This is real, Mariana. This is our future. This is the one that changes everything. $50,000. Her rationalization. This is the investment that will secure us. Everything else was temporary. This one is it. This one is the one that makes everything worth it. Week 42. The final push. There's one more thing. My lawyer says without this, everything collapses. $55,000. After this, we're clear. After this, we can finally be together. No more complications. No more waiting. Just you and me. She looked at the numbers. She'd liquidated some investments. She'd taken money from her business accounts. She'd sold pieces of her life to fund his dreams. $55,000. The total, $275,000 over 20 weeks. But deep down, she knew something was wrong. She could feel it in her chest. A tightness, a whisper that said, this doesn't add up. This doesn't make sense. Something is wrong. She just didn't want to admit it. Because by week 40, something had shifted in the manipulation. It wasn't just about money anymore. Tyler began planting a different kind of seed. Your family doesn't understand us, he said casually during one of their video calls. People always try to tear apart love that threatens them. It's jealousy. It's insecurity. Your children are building their own lives. They're not thinking about you, but I'm thinking about you. I'm choosing you." He said it so gently, so reasonably, like he was protecting her from a truth she needed to hear. And Mariana believed him. So when Sophia called during week 44, when her lawyer daughter, who noticed everything, finally said something, Mariana was ready to defend him. "Why are there large withdrawals from your business account, Mom?" Mariana's heart stopped, but she forced calm into her voice. "That's my business, Sophia." "Mom, I'm a lawyer. I know when something's not right. Who are you sending this money to?" There it was, the moment where she could have stopped, the moment where she could have told the truth and maybe been saved. Instead, she lied. "It's a business investment, nothing to worry about." Sophia wasn't satisfied. She called Michael Jr. and Daniel. That night, the three of them, her accomplished, intelligent children, confronted their mother together. "We think you're being scammed," Sophia said bluntly, and Mariana felt something break inside her. "You don't understand him," she said, her voice trembling. "He's different. He loves me." "Mom, show us his profile," Michael Jr. said gently. She refused. "Mom, if you continue this, we can't help you," Sophia said, frustration and fear mixing in her voice. Mariana hung up. She was shaking. Her children, her brilliant, successful children, were trying to save her from something she didn't want to be saved from. They didn't understand. They couldn't understand. She called Tyler immediately, and he said exactly what she needed to hear. "I know. People always try to tear apart love that threatens them. Your family is jealous of what we have. They see me making you happy, and it frightens them. They want you to be as alone as they are. Just stay focused on us. Ignore them. They'll come around once they see how happy you are." She believed him, because he had been there for her when her children weren't. He had listened when they didn't. He had chosen her when nobody else had. He had made her feel seen and loved and valuable in a way her entire family never had. So when he said her family was trying to keep them apart, she believed it. When he said they were jealous, she accepted it. When he said she should trust only him, she did. By week 44, Mariana had been separated from the only people who might have saved her. Not physically, but emotionally, psychologically, completely. She had spent $275,000. She was about to spend $150,000 more by refinancing her home. She was about to book a flight to Dubai. And she was completely alone. She didn't realize it yet. But she was walking into a trap, and the door was already closing behind her. What Mariana couldn't see was the pattern, the way each request came when she was vulnerable, the way each story was crafted to appeal to her specific fears and desires, the way he escalated the urgency without ever letting her question the fundamental truth. None of this was real. The documents were fake. The family trust was fiction. The mother's surgery was a lie. The visa issues, the project crisis, the jewelry business, all of it was a carefully constructed fantasy designed to keep her emotionally invested and financially depleted. He had studied her. He knew that she needed to feel like she was helping someone, that she needed to be necessary, that success without partnership felt empty. So he gave her partnership. He gave her someone to save. He gave her purpose. All while he was systematically draining her. And the cruelest part? By the time she realized what was happening, she wouldn't be able to go back. She'd already burned her bridges with her children. She'd already decided that he was the only one who understood her. She'd already decided to fly 6,000 miles to meet him. She had no idea that the man in the video calls didn't actually exist, that the Sheikh Usman Salman she'd fallen in love with was a deep fake, that the person she was flying to meet was someone completely different, someone dangerous, someone who had been hunting her from the moment he saw her on LinkedIn, and she was about to walk directly into his hands. Take a second and tell me in the comments how this story is making you feel. Are you shocked? Heartbroken? Furious? Your voice matters here. And I read every single comment. Week 45. The message came at 10:33 p.m. Mariana, I can't do this long distance anymore. I need you here, with me. I want to build a life, not a business, a life. Come to Dubai. Spend 2 weeks with me, see my world, meet my family, and we'll figure out the rest together. She read it 3 times. Her heart was racing. This was it. This was the moment she'd been waiting for. The moment where the distance between them would collapse, where the video calls would become reality, where she wouldn't have to wonder if he was real or if she was living in some fantasy. She typed, "When?" His response came within minutes. "As soon as you can. I need you here. I need to know this is real." She didn't think, didn't hesitate, didn't ask herself the questions her therapist would have asked. She didn't call her children. She didn't sleep on it. She booked the flight that night. December 10th, departure from Houston. December 15th, arrival in Dubai. 2 weeks. Just 2 weeks to see his world, to meet his family, to finally be with him. She told her children she was attending a real estate conference in Dubai and taking some personal time. She said it casually, like it was nothing, like it wasn't the biggest decision of her life. None of them believed her, but she didn't care. She was 45 days into the most profound connection of her adult life, and she was finally going to see where it led. But there was a problem. She needed cash, for the trip, for hotels, for showing him that she could afford to be there, for making sure he knew she was serious about this. She'd already liquidated some investments. She'd already taken money from her business accounts. But there wasn't enough. Not enough to cover all the requests he'd made. Not enough to cover the trip. Not enough to be the woman he needed her to be. So Mariana did something that shocked even her. She called her bank. "I want to refinance my home." The banker seemed surprised. "Your 2.1 million property in the Heights? The one you own outright?" "Yes, I need $150,000 for renovations." She lied like it was easy. The paperwork went through within days. She'd owned this home for 15 years. She'd paid it off completely. It represented everything she'd built, every sacrifice, every late night, every deal closed, every business decision that paid off. This house was her life's work made concrete, and she was putting it at risk for him. She now had $425,000 total committed to Tyler, $275,000 in direct transfers, $150,000 in new debt on her primary asset, debt she hadn't carried in 15 years. What this meant was clear, even if she wouldn't admit it. She'd risked her primary asset. She'd extended her debt for the first time in a decade and a half. She was now financially vulnerable in a way she hadn't been since before her success. She'd completely crossed the point of no return. There was no going back from this. December 10th, the Houston Airport. Early morning. Mariana was checking her luggage when Sophia appeared. Her daughter, her lawyer, the brilliant woman who'd tried to save her. "Mom, don't go." Mariana's face hardened. She didn't even look at her daughter. "Sophia, I'm an adult. You don't get to make my decisions." "You're being scammed. Please, let me prove it to you. Just give me 1 hour. I can show you." "You're being controlling," Mariana said, and her voice was ice. "Just like your father was. I spent years with someone who tried to make me small. I won't let you do the same thing." She turned away from her daughter and continued checking in. Sophia followed her, desperate now. This was her last chance, and she knew it. "Show me his passport," Sophia said. "If he's real, show me his name. Show me his passport information. One simple thing. That's all I'm asking." Mariana's hands froze on her suitcase. "He's from Dubai," she said quietly. "Privacy is important to him." "Mom, that doesn't make sense. You've been video calling with him for 5 months. You're flying to meet him. You've sent him $400,000. He can show you his passport. If he won't, that's the answer right there." "You don't understand," Mariana said. But she didn't finish, because she knew Sophia understood perfectly. Her daughter was a lawyer. She understood evidence. She understood patterns. She understood deception. Mariana just didn't want to hear it. She grabbed her luggage and walked toward security without looking back. Sophia stood there in the middle of the airport, tears streaming down her face, watching her mother walk toward her own destruction. This was the moment. This was the line. Mariana had chosen the illusion over reality. She'd rejected the people who loved her. She'd isolated herself completely. The point of no return had been crossed. What Mariana didn't understand in that moment was what she was actually doing. She wasn't just booking a flight. She wasn't just taking a vacation. She wasn't just going to meet someone she was in love with. She was walking into the final stage of a predator's hunt. Every request he'd made had been calculated to get her here, to get her isolated, to get her on a plane to a country where she would be alone, where she would be vulnerable, where nobody knew her, where nobody could help her. He'd studied her for weeks, learned what she needed, learned how to make her feel seen, learned how to position himself as the only person who truly understood her. He'd separated her from her family systematically, not with cruelty, but with gentleness, by saying the things that sounded true, by positioning himself as her protector while her children were painted as jealous and controlling. He'd taken her money, not all at once, but gradually, in increments that made sense in the moment, for reasons that seemed legitimate, for a future that seemed real. And now, finally, he had her exactly where he wanted her. She was about to get on a plane to Dubai with $425,000 of her net worth already gone. She was about to arrive in a city where he was waiting, where nobody knew her, where she had no support system. She had no idea what was waiting for her on the other side of that flight. She had no idea that the man she'd been video calling with didn't exist, that Sheikh Usman Salman was a deep fake, that the person she was about to meet was a predator named Tyler James Wilson. She had no idea that within 3 days she would be locked in an apartment, that within 4 days she would be fighting for her life, that within 5 days she would be gone. She had no idea that the decision she was making at this airport was the decision that would kill her. But the audience watching this story unfold knows. We can see it coming. We know what Tyler is. We know what he's planning. We know that Mariana is walking directly into the trap. And we're helpless to stop her, just like Sophia was helpless to stop her, just like the people who loved her were helpless to save her. She had made her choice, and there was no going back. If you want daily true crime stories told with this level of depth and emotion, hit that subscribe button and join the family. We post every single day, and every story matters. December 15th, 3:15 p.m., Dubai International Airport. Mariana stepped off the plane with her heart in her throat. She'd barely slept on the 16-hour flight. Her hands were shaking. Her legs felt unsteady. After 5 months of video calls and messages and promises, she was finally here. In the same city as him, in the same country, minutes away from the man she'd reorganized her entire life for. She went through customs, collected her luggage, walked toward the arrival hall. Her phone buzzed. A text from him. "I'm waiting in the hotel lobby. Meet me at the Atlantis Royal in 30 minutes. She called him immediately. "I'm here. Where are you?" "The Atlantis Royal," he repeated. 30 minutes. She took an Uber across the city, her hands trembling the entire drive. The Atlantis Royal was one of Dubai's most luxurious hotels. When she arrived, the concierge greeted her by name. "Ms. Santos, welcome. Your suite is complimentary, already paid by your gentleman friend." Her heart soared. He'd paid for her room, $800 a night. He'd thought of everything. The suite was stunning. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Palm Jumeirah, marble bathrooms, Egyptian cotton sheets, everything perfect. She showered, changed into the dress she'd bought specifically for this moment, the dress she'd tried on 10 times to make sure it was right. She did her hair, her makeup. She looked at herself in the mirror and barely recognized the woman looking back. She looked happy. She looked hopeful. She looked like someone who'd finally found what she'd been looking for. She went down to the lobby. He was 45 minutes late. When he finally arrived, Mariana's breath caught in her throat. He was here. Really here. In person, not on a screen, actually standing in front of her. But something was wrong. The photos had prepared her for his appearance, but in person, his energy was completely different. He was handsome. Yes, he was handsome. But his smile didn't reach his eyes. There was no light there, no warmth. He hugged her, but it felt transactional. Not like a man greeting the woman he'd been dreaming about for 5 months. Not like someone who'd been counting down the days to finally be with her. Just a hug, polite, empty. "Let's get dinner," he said. Not, "I can't believe you're finally here." Not, "I've missed you." Just logistics. They went to an expensive restaurant. He ordered wine, the most expensive bottle on the list. He made polite conversation about market trends and development projects. But he wasn't looking at her. Not really. His eyes kept drifting to his phone. When she reached across the table to hold his hand, he pulled away to answer a text message. Mariana felt her chest tighten. Then his phone buzzed again. He read the message and something shifted in his face. His entire demeanor changed in an instant. The professional mask slipped just enough for her to see what was underneath. It wasn't love. It was something else. Something cold. "We need to go, now," he said, standing up abruptly. "What? Why? What's wrong?" Mariana asked, confused. "Business. Come on." He didn't explain further. He just grabbed her hand and pulled her toward the door. A driver was waiting outside. Not a taxi, but a car that had been arranged. Not romantic. Practical. They drove for 30 minutes outside the main tourist areas, away from the hotels, away from the beaches, away from cameras, away from help, away from anywhere she recognized. The driver pulled up to a modest apartment building in a less affluent neighborhood. Not the luxury penthouse he'd described during their video calls. Not a penthouse at all. Just a basic, ordinary apartment building. "This is temporary," he said quickly when he saw her face. "The main place is being renovated. We'll move soon." But Mariana didn't believe him. The words were right, but his tone was wrong. He wasn't trying to comfort her. He was trying to manage her reaction. Something was very wrong. That first night, he told her to rest. She was jet-lagged and confused, so she agreed. She tried to initiate something intimate, hoping that would help her understand what was happening. Maybe he was just stressed. Maybe once they were alone together, the man she loved would return. Instead, he said he was tired and rolled over. She lay awake in the darkness, listening to him talk on his phone in the other room. He was speaking Urdu. She didn't understand the words, but she understood his tone. Aggressive, cold, not like the gentleman she knew. Then she heard her name mentioned. "Yes, she's here." And then laughter, not warm laughter, cruel laughter, the kind of laughter that meant he was sharing a joke about her with someone else. She didn't sleep that night. The next morning he was different, cold, distant. The warmth that had defined their 5-month relationship was completely gone. In its place was a stranger wearing his face. "Mariana, we need to talk about something," he said as she sat at the kitchen table with coffee she'd made, trying to pretend everything was normal. "What?" she asked, her voice small. "My business partner is having issues. He needs to verify your investment accounts to finalize the partnerships." Mariana's blood ran cold. "What? Why does he need to—" "Trust me, it's normal. Stop being difficult. Give me your banking passwords." The words hung in the air between them like a threat. "No," she said. It was the first time she'd refused him anything. "No, Tyler, I'm not giving you my passwords." He got angry. Actually angry. His voice changed, became harsh, commanding. "You came here to be with me, right? To be part of my life? Then you need to trust me. Stop being paranoid." She was shaken. This wasn't the man from the video calls. This was someone else entirely. That night, she looked for her phone. She wanted to call Sophia. She wanted to hear her daughter's voice. She wanted to know if everything was okay in Houston, if there was a world outside this apartment where things made sense. She couldn't find her phone. She searched the bedroom, the bathroom, the kitchen. Finally, she found it in his room, on the nightstand, unlocked. Her banking app was open. He'd been looking at her accounts, checking her balance, seeing what money was left, calculating what he could still take. She confronted him. "Why is my phone in your room? Why do you have my banking app open?" He exploded. The transformation was complete. The mask came off entirely. He wasn't the polished developer anymore. He wasn't the man who'd listened to her for 5 months. He wasn't even pretending. "You're being paranoid. Relax," he said, but his voice was menacing. "You need to understand something, Mariana. You're here now, and things are different here." She backed away from him, slowly, her heart pounding. She finally understood. She wasn't here because he loved her. She was here because he'd orchestrated every step of her journey to this exact moment, to this apartment, to this man, to this realization. The man she'd fallen in love with didn't exist. The Sheikh Usman Salman from the video calls was a deep fake, a ghost, a carefully constructed illusion designed to bring her here, to isolate her, to trap her. And now the trap had sprung. She was in a foreign country with a man she'd never actually met. She had no passport. She had no control of her phone. She had no way to call for help. She was completely alone, and the only person who'd tried to save her, Sophia, standing at that airport with tears streaming down her face, was 6,000 miles away, unable to do anything but wait for her mother to call and admit she'd been wrong. But Mariana wouldn't get to make that call because Tyler James Wilson hadn't brought her to Dubai for love. He'd brought her there because he was a predator, and she was his prey. And now the hunt was over. Now came the slaughter. A quick like and a thoughtful comment helps this video reach people who've never heard Mariana's story, people who need to recognize these red flags. It supports the channel more than you know and helps us grow this movement. Let's push this story farther together. December 17th, 2 p.m., day 3. A knock on the door. 2 men entered the apartment. Not friendly, not introduced, not treated like guests. They moved with purpose. One of them looked at Tyler and asked a single question. "Well?" Tyler gestured toward Mariana. "This is her." Mariana's blood turned to ice. "What's happening?" she asked, but she already knew. She already felt it in the pit of her stomach. Something fundamental had shifted. The pretense was over. Tyler's face was stone. The charm that had seduced her for 5 months was completely gone. In its place was something cold, something cruel. "We need to discuss your financial situation," he said. One of the men grabbed her passport from the table. "You're not leaving until we've secured everything." They forced her to sit and showed her their operation. Screenshots of messages, photographs of other women, dozens of them, all the same story, all the same trap. "You've sent us $425,000, one of the men said. "That's just the beginning. You're going to call your bank. You're going to liquidate your remaining investments. You're going to get a loan, and you're going to transfer every penny." "No," Mariana said, and her voice sounded small, terrified. "No, I won't. I'm leaving. I'm calling the embassy." Tyler grabbed her by the throat, not playfully, not like a scene from a movie, with real violence. You're not going anywhere." She was locked in the bedroom. No phone, no passport, no contact with the outside world. She was completely trapped. That night at 3 a.m., Mariana made a decision. She'd noticed the window, 3rd floor, but there was a fire escape. During one of her supervised bathroom trips, she'd found a hammer in the kitchen drawer. She hid it under the mattress. When the sounds from the other room finally quieted, when they were asleep, she took the hammer and smashed the window lock. The sound was loud, too loud. She froze, listening for movement. Nothing. She opened the window carefully and climbed out onto the metal fire escape. Her hands were shaking so badly she could barely grip the railing. Her foot slipped. For a moment, she thought she was going to fall 3 stories. She caught herself, her heart pounding so hard she thought it might explode. She jumped the last 8 feet to the pavement, landed hard. Pain shot through her ankle. She thought she'd broken it, but adrenaline kept her moving. She limped away from the apartment building. The street was empty at 3 a.m. She ran, toward lights in the distance, toward what she hoped was safety. She found a 24-hour convenience store. The clerk was Pakistani. He looked at her, bruised, bleeding, desperate, and she could see the fear in his eyes. "Please," she begged, "call the police. I'm being held against my will. I'm from America. My name is Mariana Santos. Please, help me." The clerk looked scared. He said something in Arabic into a phone. She didn't understand the words, but she understood the tone. He was calling someone. She thought help was coming. 15 minutes later, a car pulled up outside. Tyler walked in with the 2 men. They moved calmly, casually, like they were picking up groceries. The clerk stepped aside. Tyler said something to the clerk in Arabic, not friendly, not polite, just words that made the clerk nod and look away. Mariana understood in that moment. This network extends beyond just Tyler. It extends to local businesses, to people with power, to systems she thought would protect her. The police weren't coming. Nobody was coming. They took her back. December 18th. Back in the apartment. Tyler was furious. She'd tried to escape. That changed everything. He forced her to call her bank, on speakerphone. He listened to every word she said. He controlled the entire conversation. She tried one last time to reach someone. She looked at the bank representative through the phone and said, "Tell my daughter I love her." The representative didn't understand, didn't pick up on the signal. The wire transfer went through, another $180,000. She now had $605,000 committed to this man, $605,000 of her life's work, of her mother's legacy, of her children's inheritance, gone. Tyler told her, "You're staying until we confirm the transfer. Then we figure out what to do with you." She heard the threat in his words. She knew what he meant. She wasn't leaving this apartment alive. That night, in desperation, she tried something final. She tried to seduce him, to regain control, to remind him that she was a person, that they'd had something real. "I love you," she said. "We can figure this out. We can leave here together. We can—" He laughed, a cruel, vicious sound. "You actually believed that? You thought I was going to fall in love with you?" He looked at her with disgust. "You're 58 years old." The cruelty was deliberate. It was designed to break what was left of her spirit. She snapped. She attacked him, desperate, clawing, screaming the way you scream when you know you're going to die. He overpowered her immediately. He was younger, stronger, and he had nothing to lose. He slammed her head against the wall. Once, the impact was sudden, violent. Twice. Blood. Everything went dark. 6 hours later, cleaning staff at the motel discovered her body. The blood-stained walls told the story of a woman who'd fought, who'd refused to be silent, who'd attacked back even when she knew she couldn't win. Mariana Santos died fighting. She'd spent her entire life being strong, being independent, being the one who solved problems, being the one nobody could hurt. In the end, she was just a woman, alone, in a foreign country, with a predator who'd hunted her from the moment he saw her vulnerability on LinkedIn. She never got to call her daughter, never got to tell Sophia she was sorry, never got to tell her children that she understood now, that they'd been right, never got to go home. The woman who had everything, success, independence, achievement, ended with nothing, not even her life. If this case is hitting you emotionally right now, let me know in the comments what you're feeling. And tap that subscribe button so you don't miss tomorrow's story. Trust me, it's just as powerful. December 19th, 2024, early morning in Houston. Sophia called her mother's number. No answer. She tried again. Nothing. She called the hotel her mother said she'd be staying at. No record of a reservation. No record of her being there at all. Sophia's hands started shaking. She called Houston police and filed a missing persons report. Within hours, Houston PD contacted the State Department. The State Department contacted Interpol. Within 18 hours, Mariana's body was discovered in a modest apartment in Dubai. Blunt force trauma, defensive wounds on her hands and arms. She had fought. The woman who'd spent her entire life being strong had fought until the very end. The FBI's cyber division took over. They had jurisdiction, wire fraud crossing U.S. borders, murder resulting from U.S.-originated crime. This was federal. They began tracing the digital footprints of Tyler's operation. Fake LinkedIn account using a stolen identity. Deepfake technology that had fooled Mariana into believing she was video calling with a real man. Money routed through 7 accounts across multiple countries. Bitcoin conversions designed to hide the trail. They worked methodically. Each wire transfer, each date, each victim. What they found was staggering. 14 U.S. victims identified in Mariana's case alone. Combined losses, $3.2 million, and she was just one woman, just one target in an operation that had been running for years. Then they got the break. One of Mariana's transfers had gone to a money laundering location in Austin, Texas. The FBI raided it and found the infrastructure of an entire operation. Laptops with victim profiles, fake documents, stolen identities of 40-plus people, and a wall of photographs. Victims, names, amounts. Mariana's photo was there, too, with a question mark, like they were still deciding what to do with her. They were too late. Facial recognition picked up Tyler at a Dubai airport attempting to board a flight to Turkey. Turkish authorities detained him, but extradition took months. Tyler had connections. He fought it in court, trying to delay, trying to find a way out. The court ruled against him. U.S. courts have jurisdiction. The wire fraud occurred in the U.S. The victims are U.S. citizens. The Yahoo communications crossed U.S. servers. March 2025, 8 months after Mariana's death. Tyler James Wilson was extradited to Houston to face justice. The courtroom was packed. Victims, families of victims, journalists, people who'd been following the case since Mariana's body was discovered. They all came to watch justice finally arrive. The indictment read like a catalog of his crimes. Wire fraud, 14 counts. Money laundering, 6 counts. Identity theft, 8 counts. Assault, extortion, conspiracy. And the most serious, murder in the first degree. Day 1 of the trial, the prosecution laid out the digital timeline. Each wire transfer appeared on screen. Each amount, each date. Mariana's photo stayed on the screen throughout. $25,000, $40,000, $60,000, $45,000, $50,000, $55,000, $180,000, a running total of a woman's life savings being drained. The jury watched the methodical extraction of everything Mariana had built. Day 4, Sophia took the stand. She was composed, professional. But as she began to speak, her voice cracked. She described her mother's character, her independence, her strength. She described the woman who'd survived a difficult marriage and built an empire from nothing. She described a mother who was also lonely, who wanted to be loved, who made one terrible decision because she was human. Then she had to identify her mother's body in the morgue. The entire courtroom fell silent. There wasn't a dry eye in the gallery. Day 8. A forensic expert testified about deepfake technology. They showed the real Australian businessman. Then they showed the deepfake Tyler had created. The face, the voice, the video quality. It was perfect. The expert explained how the technology worked, how AI could create a person who didn't exist, how victims could video call with someone who wasn't real and never know the difference. The jury finally understood. Mariana had never been speaking to Sheikh Usman Salman. She'd been speaking to a digital ghost, a carefully constructed illusion created by a predator. It was chilling how perfect the deception was. Day 12. Other victims took the stand: a nurse from San Antonio, a widow from Dallas, a business owner from Austin who had attempted suicide after losing everything. Each one told the same story in different ways. Different names, different amounts, different professions, but the same pattern: trust, hope, desperation, devastation. Each one had been hunted. Each one had believed they were in love. Each one had been systematically drained of their life savings. Each one described the moment they realized the truth, and the guilt, the shame, the understanding that they'd been fooled by someone smarter, colder, more calculating than they could have imagined. The jury heard it 4 times, 4 different women, 4 different stories, all the same monster. Day 14. Tyler took the stand. He admitted to the romance scam. He admitted to the extortion. He admitted to the deep fake, technology, and the coordinated operation. But when asked about Mariana's death, his answer was simple. She fell. I didn't push her. The prosecution showed the surveillance video. Grainy, but audible, screaming. The sound of her voice as she fought. Cracks of impact. The pattern unmistakable. Not a fall. Violence. Deliberate violence. The medical examiner took the stand and confirmed what the video showed. The injuries were consistent with repeated blunt force trauma. The pattern showed deliberation. This wasn't an accident. This was murder. Tyler stared straight ahead. No emotion. No remorse. Day 42. The jury deliberated for 6 hours. When they returned, the verdict was read. We find the defendant guilty on all counts. Wire fraud, 20 years. Identity theft, 15 years. Money laundering, 10 years. Murder in the first degree, life without parole. Tyler James Wilson would never leave prison. He would die in a cell. He would never hurt another woman. He would never manipulate another family. He would never create another deepfake to hunt another victim. He showed no emotion as the verdict was read, just stared straight ahead. But behind him in the gallery, Sophia was crying. Not tears of joy, not tears of closure, tears of loss. Because here's the truth about justice. It doesn't bring anyone back. Mariana was still gone, still dead, still buried in a cemetery in Houston, while her daughter had to live with the knowledge that she'd tried to warn her mother, that she'd begged her mother not to go, that she'd stood at that airport with tears streaming down her face, watching her mother walk toward her own death. Justice meant Tyler would spend the rest of his life in prison. Justice meant the operation was exposed. Justice meant 14 victims had their cases heard. Justice meant other women might be protected because of what happened to Mariana. But it didn't mean Mariana got to go home. It didn't mean she got to see her sons again. Didn't mean she got to celebrate their accomplishments. Didn't mean she got to meet her grandchildren. Justice was important. Justice mattered. But justice came too late. Sophia had to live with that knowledge for the rest of her life. What Tyler James Wilson didn't understand What predators like him never understand is that they don't just steal money, they don't just commit fraud, they steal time, they steal futures, they steal the possibility of happiness from the people they hunt. Mariana will never have another chance at love, never have another chance to be happy, never have the opportunity to learn from her mistake and grow. She's frozen at 58 years old forever, a woman who'd built an empire, a mother who'd raised accomplished children, a person who'd survived poverty and betrayal and divorce and loneliness, only to be hunted by a predator who saw her vulnerability on LinkedIn and decided to take everything from her, including her life. That's what justice looks like in this case. A man in prison, a woman in a grave, and a family that will never recover. Take a second and tell me in the comments how this story is making you feel. Are you shocked, heartbroken, furious? Your voice matters here, and I read every single comment. Mariana Santos is dead. That fact doesn't change. That wound doesn't heal. But her death wasn't meaningless. Sophia Santos took her mother's story, the tragedy, the manipulation, the loss, and she transformed it into something that could protect others. She didn't just grieve, she acted. She pushed federal legislation. The Mariana Santos Act became law. It requires dating platforms and professional networking sites to implement deepfake detection technology and multi-level identity verification. No more perfect illusions. No more digital ghosts hunting vulnerable women. Major dating platforms now use it. LinkedIn now uses it. The technology that was once a predator's greatest weapon became the mechanism for his exposure. Mariana's death led to protection for thousands of women she'd never meet. The FBI launched a national awareness campaign about romance scams targeting professional women. Universities began teaching digital literacy about deepfakes and emotional manipulation. High schools started conversations about online safety. Law enforcement coordinated across borders. All because one woman's story couldn't be ignored. But the numbers tell the real story. 47 U.S. victims identified just in Tyler's network. $3.2 million stolen from these women. The network extended to 6 countries. Tyler was one of 30-plus scammers using the exact same infrastructure, the exact same deepfake technology, the same emotional manipulation tactics, the same predatory system. And they're still operating. The estimated global romance scam industry generates over $1 billion annually. Active romance scams targeting professional women are increasing 25% yearly. For every Mariana whose story makes headlines, there are hundreds whose stories go untold. Thousands, tens of thousands. Women who are still being hunted, still being manipulated, still being drained of everything they have. Mariana was one of the lucky ones. If you can call someone lucky who lost everything and died. At least her case got attention. At least her killer was caught. At least her family got answers. Most victims never get that. At Tyler's sentencing, Sophia stood up to speak. The courtroom was silent as her mother's daughter addressed the man who'd murdered her. "My mother was successful," she began. "She had money, she had education, she had independence, and none of that protected her, because what she didn't have was someone to talk to, someone to validate her loneliness without judgment, someone to hold her hand." Her voice cracked, but she continued. "This man weaponized her desire to be loved. He took everything from her, not just the $605,000 she invested in his lies, but her dignity, her safety, her life, and I'll spend the rest of my life wondering if I could have done more to stop her." But then she said something that changed the narrative. "I also know this. My mother built an empire from nothing. She survived a failed marriage. She raised 3 accomplished children. She earned the respect of her entire industry. And at the end of her life, the only thing she wanted, the thing she was willing to risk everything for, was to be loved. That's not foolish. That's human. And the man sitting in front of this court exploited the most human part of her, her heart. Because here's what needs to be said. Mariana wasn't naive. She wasn't foolish. She wasn't greedy or reckless or stupid. Mariana was lonely, isolated despite her success, vulnerable to believing that someone finally saw her. She was human. That's the point so many people miss. They look at Mariana's story and they say, how could she be so stupid? How could she fall for this? How could she send money to a stranger? And the answer is, because she was human. Because loneliness is real. Because the desire to be loved doesn't disappear when you become successful. Because intelligence and education and financial security don't inoculate you against the need for human connection. Success doesn't cure loneliness. Money doesn't buy connection. Independence doesn't eliminate the human need for partnership. Mariana made one mistake. She fell in love with a lie so perfectly constructed that even a brilliant businesswoman couldn't see through it. That's not a character flaw. That's a testament to how sophisticated emotional manipulation has become in the digital age. So here are the lessons. The things you need to know to protect yourself and the people you love. First, open communication saves lives. Create spaces where your loved ones can talk about their loneliness without judgment. Not just your children, your parents, your aunts, your friends, especially the ones who seem like they have it all together, the ones who are successful and independent and strong. Mariana's children loved her, but they didn't know she was drowning. The silence between them created the perfect opening for Tyler to step in. Second, recognize the red flags of digital deception. Reluctance to meet in person after months of talking. Video calls that are always rescheduled. Requests for money that escalate slowly and seem reasonable in context. Isolation from family with gentle language. They don't understand us. And most critically, deepfake technology. If you can't verify their identity with an in-person video call, in-person meeting, or official documentation, don't trust it. Don't give money. Don't give access to your accounts. Third, deepfakes changed the game. The old romance scam said, "Send me money and we'll be together." The new romance scam says, "Here's a video of me. Here's my face. Here's my voice. You've seen me. Trust me." The technology has evolved. Our defenses haven't. Until platforms implement deepfake detection, we're all vulnerable. Every single one of us. Mariana Santos sold everything to meet the man of her dreams in Dubai. But the man she met wasn't a man. He was a digital ghost, a deepfake, a predator. Her story stopped one predator. But thousands more are operating right now on the platforms you use, hunting the people you love. If you recognize these warning signs in yourself or someone you love, reach out. Get help. Verify before you trust. Report it to the FBI's Internet Crime Complaint Center. Mariana's life ended in an apartment in Dubai. But her legacy is alive in the laws being passed, the awareness being raised, the conversations happening right now about loneliness, love, and the cost of deception. Let her memory be a reminder. Love should never come with a price. The people who truly love you will never ask you to choose between them and your family. Watch for the warning signs. Protect the people you love. And never stop talking about what happened to Mariana Santos. Subscribe. Share this with someone you love. Check on the people in your life who seem strong but might be lonely, because the next Mariana might be someone you know. Thank you for watching this documentary. To the very end, stories like Mariana are difficult to hear, but they are important to share. It protect people, educate communities, they saved lives. If this story impacted you, please remember to like this video, subscribe our channel for more investigating documentaries, and share this with people you care about. Your share can reach to someone who needs to hear this message. Leave a comment with your thoughts. Also tell from which part of the world are currently watched in the comment below. I mean your location. Let's build a community to protect each. Stay safe.